There's this false economy of cutting creative. Athletic departments and organizations often see creative roles as optional or luxury. They're not optional anymore. They're not luxury. This is how you're going to survive. Welcome back to Sports Creatives Anonymous. I'm your host, Clayton Jones, and today we're going to talk about the importance of creative staffs and more so investing in them, whether you are at the, obviously the professional level and high D1 level does this well, but from mid-size and below, why it's still important that you need to be investing in creative content and creative staffs, whether that is full-time on your staff or hiring that out. But first, we're going to discuss the old burnout scale. So big week for me this week. We got rolling with a lot of media days. Had a big 36-hour kind of turnover that I documented on my Instagram. So if you want to go check that out, it was on my Instagram at Clayton in Focus. But I'm probably at a 2.5 to 3, probably a good 1.5, 2-point jump this week in the old burnout scale. So keeping an eye on that. Anyways, today we're talking creative staff and the importance of investing in that. Now, I know that sounds a little like, I might be slightly biased being a sports creative, but too many times I've seen organizations and other folks and either de-investing in it or not investing in it enough. And at the end of the day, it's really going to hurt you, especially with the way marketing and social media has really exploded and how you need to be on those platforms or you're just going to get left behind. So I think getting rolling here, we kind of want to discuss and talk about why content creation is critical for smaller programs, such as colleges, high schools, and even youth programs. I think investing in those is paramount in growing your organization or showcasing your organization. It's easy for these big schools, professional teams, they got teams of people to really, in different divisions, whether that's original content, creating, graphic design, they got the sports information or the communication side and everything else. Obviously, pretty much Division 2 below, you're not going to have that luxury. So how do you do it? How do you go about it? It's whether you're hiring out, doing it yourself, it is tough. I get it. Completely tough. But I guess this is more towards those that are running these organizations that you can't cut in those places because you're just cutting off your nose to spite your face, right? This is how you're going to market yourself. There's not TV. There's not, print. I hate to say that as a former sports writer and a person who has a degree in news journalism and writing and editing. But yeah, that's just not the way the world works anymore. People are getting on social media. This is how you're going to be discovered. This is how your school's going to be represented. This is, if you're a high school, you want, if you're a public high school, maybe you're looking for sponsorships and other things. If you're a private high school, you're lumped right in there with the college level, right? You want to be promoting to get people to come to your school, to get the best athletes to come to your school, to get the right type of people to go to your school to grow because you're a private organization. You got to make that money, right? And even youth organizations, you want to impress upon folks that your organization's worth investing in. Again, whether it's sponsors, whether it's people having their kids be a part of it, anything. If people are investing in you, you need to invest back into content to promote that and to continue to grow. As we continue to talk about this, we got to think about how the impact of content is, or what the impact is of content on recruiting, visibility, and community engagement at all these levels. But mainly this small school level, right? It's no secret. People are bouncing from school to school. Nobody's really staying all 4 years as much anymore. People are always looking for that next opportunity. And that, that's their prerogative. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just the way it is. So recruiting is a much more active game for coaches nowadays. We often talk about how, if it used to be just, the JUCO level is where you're kind of be picking up people and You're going to get more experienced players and everything else. But now it's just kind of open to the Wild West. And, even us as a Division II school at Western Oregon, we have to realize that if we get a really good player, they are going to go to the next level. We had our top baseball player who was a third-team All-America this last year. Yeah, he's going to go pitch at the University of Oregon. It's just the way it is. But if you continue to promote that these people are moving on to better places, you're going to be able to get those players that might be, on the fringe or like thinking about going to a big school, but they don't think they're going to play right away. And maybe they come to Division II, shine out, and then boom, they can, get to that D1 level that they're looking to get to. Because, nowadays it's not just a JUCO route anymore. You could go to a 4-year school and then move up as you go. But there are differences in how you want to use social media if you're at some of these levels, right? College, we're obviously looking to promote ourselves. We're looking to promote the student experience. We're looking to showcase what we can do and find a way to shine, especially us at, smaller schools that are kind of fighting for attention. But, if you're at the high school level, you may use it for more recruiting purposes. See, getting your kids out there, being able to really showcase their talents. And so maybe they have a chance to move on to the next level. And if you're a youth organization, you're just trying to, it's almost like a business, right? Well, it is a business. And you want to showcase and film and document your organization and what kind of benefit it's going to provide to someone's children to be a part of it. And I'll be honest, if schools are neglecting this, and I do see it, I see institutions cutting these content creative positions at times, or cutting positions that happen to be somebody who does more of the content side. It's bad move, incredibly bad move. Those are the people that are going to have maybe more of a rare set of skills to promote your school and give you guys that ability. And I think sometimes, unfortunately, schools think they could just shove this off to students, and hopefully that they're going to create this stuff. And don't get me wrong, there's very talented students, people that are better than I am at some of this stuff, right? I have no problem saying that, but this isn't something, this is your marketing. This isn't just, the stuff you're just throwing on there. And I think schools do need to have a better sense of the importance of it, and that it can't just be, oh, we're just going to have a student do it. I mean, you're basing your reputation and everything else on somebody who isn't very experienced. And if somebody's not guiding them the right way, you're not going to get the, return of investment. Well, there is no investment, but you're not going to get that positive feedback, that positive shine, maybe, that if you had somebody more professional, somebody that had an idea, a plan, put together to really showcase your school, your program, your organization. I just think about moments of what are you going to do if let's say you're a private school and you haven't invested in content, and you're just hoping some young person did, and you win a state title or you win this. You know how much juice you could get from those clips if you get somebody that really knows what they're doing, and to be able to use those clips over and over again to help your recruiting process, to help your enrollment, because even if somebody isn't into sports, if you're a school that is known for being good at athletics, you're probably going to get general enrollment in general. General enrollment in general, that's probably not a great sentence, but you're going to get that enrollment to go up, and it's not just going to be athletes. There's this false economy of cutting creative where athletic departments and organizations often see creative roles as optional or luxury. They're not optional anymore. They're not luxury. This is how you're going to survive. In a world where college enrollment is going down, you need to, I don't hate the saying, but it's a very cliched saying that athletics is the front porch of a college's university's house. And it's true. These are the people that are representing your school. These are the people that are going out across the region, wherever else. And if you are an excellent athletics program, it's probably going to bode well for your entire college. I know when, my school, my alma mater, Oregon, started, I graduated in 2005, and they were middle of the pack. That, I actually, it was the first year when I was there, was one of the first year in a long time that they didn't make a bowl game. Still think it's the only year they haven't made a bowl game in however many years, but they really started investing in the uniforms. They started investing in the image, and they exploded. And guess what? Enrollment exploded too. Now, all colleges are kind of overspent, and I think everybody's trying to cut back a little bit and find where you need to go, but I don't think that is in the creative aspect. It's not in the marketing aspect. These schools at the athletics level, at the main level, need to invest in marketing and creative to improve the perception of their product. And I don't think a lot of schools are doing that. Even at the Division I level, I don't think there's a ton of schools, and I'm not saying in the athletic department, but even just collegiately, right? Like, I just don't think there's a strong plan to really implement and grow, because we have to become brands, right? We're a brand. We're not just a college, and we're not at the point anymore where people are like, well, you go to high school, you go to college, and that's just what you do. No, more and more people are realizing that they don't have to go to college. So we have to start showcasing the importance of it, whether it's a lifestyle, whether it's the education, many separate things. And cutting creative and cutting marketing, which you're essentially doing if you're cutting creative, is a terrible way to do that. A terrible way to try and improve your brand. Another aspect of this is you're cutting that connection between yourself and the fan, the alum, whoever, if you're starting to cut creative positions. And these positions are important to keep that balance, keep that relationship rolling, so people know how their school's doing and they could feel a part of it, especially if your team is interacting with the alumni in the comments section and doing whatever else. I try to do that on our social media at Western Oregon. Probably could always do a better job, but I think it's imperative to understand that the more you cut the creative, the more you cut the kind of the ties to the community. When this world, get extra cliche again, we're smaller. Social media has brought us it's so much easier for us to connect. So the importance of being able to have people that can produce content that is going to be engaging, catch people's eye, make them stop the scroll, is more important than ever. So you might be asking, like, well, can't we just get volunteers, part-time people, especially if you're at high school, at the youth level, right? That we could just find, so-and-so's mom has a nice camera on their phone, and they could just take video and everything else. I hear that a lot. Especially when I'm pricing out stuff sometimes, I've had people go, oh, no, well, I'll have my cousin, that has a camera will do it. Well, you're going to get what you pay for. And it's nothing against those people. And it's not me being oversensitive towards the business, but it's just the truth and reality. Are you going to feel better about, it's just like anything you purchase. It's, you get something from Walmart, you're going to get Walmart quality. You get something from I'm not very cultured, so thinking of a more expensive, an Nordstrom or, just a more luxury brand, you're going to get that quality. You're going to get the overall aesthetic is just going to be better, and it's going to be worth 10 times what you're paying them overall in the end. And that's the importance of it. You're going to get the payoff if you use it correctly. The other thing is, if somebody isn't focused on it, they're going to do a half-ass job, and you're going to get a half-ass product. And if it's not their main job, if it's not their main source, and they're just going to, it's the nature of humans. It's hard to do something that we don't necessarily know how to do, have been trained to do, or whatever else. We don't have the experience. And we're going to, that person might be doing the best they can, but they're not going to give you the quality that if you hire professionally or if you hire someone with experience. And it's an investment that's in your future. It's invest in your brand. And if you want your brand to look like somebody part-time is doing it, you're going to feel that on the other end. It's just like when I've noticed this lately. I've been seeing more and more if I see businesses that have a like vinyl sign that they've kind of, you know, jimmy rigged up on their thing where a old sign used to be and they're just covering it. And it's one thing if it's temporary and you're a new business and you're waiting on it, but I've seen this for businesses that are there for a little bit and the investment that it is to go buy a real sign is going to be worth it. And the impression that you're going to give 10 times over than that ratty ass shitty sign that you just tossed up there and you thought, oh, it's good. Like, it just blows my mind sometimes that people who start businesses don't think about the aesthetic and how they are being perceived to the public. You're going to do the same thing if you are relying on somebody that's a part-time or a volunteer or whatever else. Maybe they're good and you might get lucky. That's great. But odds are you're not. And if you're thinking like, oh, maybe one of the assistant coaches or maybe a parent can do it. I mean, same deal, right? An assistant coach is trying to do stuff for you. If you got them doing the social media and other things. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're, even at our level, at the Division II level, yeah, the programs are in charge of their social media, and therefore usually it runs into an assistant coach, a graduate coach, or whatever else. That's just the nature of the beast. If they want to hire somebody out to do that, that's their own prerogative. Now, would I suggest they do that? Probably. I think it's been worth it. We had our volleyball program a couple years ago, hired somebody. She happened to be an assistant coach too, but she was really well versed in social media and really took their stuff to the next level. And while she's not there anymore, I feel like it's kind of elevated it to the point of, now they have a new sponsorship this year, and it's just been, it set the tone for the brand. And I think that's an amazing thing to do. And if you can invest in that, that's what you need to do. And that's going to be hard to do with an assistant coach who's also trying to come up with your game plan for the week, or is doing scout, or is also washing the uniforms if they're a manager, or whatever. It could be difficult. And if you're asking a parent to do it, you don't think that they're going to be concentrated on their kid and actually be able to shoot other things and do different stuff. Now, they may naturally, they may not do that, but odds are probably going to happen. As we are in the world of budgets and finding ways to hire positions and cutting positions. So what kind of roles do we have to consider? It is hard to do a specialist role nowadays. While I think more and more people are specializing, I just do video, I just do photo, I just do short video, I just do social media management, I just do this. If you're a small program, you're going to have to either hire out somebody who could do everything. Shameless plug, if you're in the Oregon area and looking for social media management, I'm somebody who can do that. So hit me up. Shameless plug. Anyways, but no, finding somebody that's multifaceted is going to be key. A jack of all trades. As if you ever be, in a business, right? That's kind of how you start with a lot of positions. But as you scale up and you get better, then you can specialize more and more. And then those specialized things get better and better. But the reality is that's just not going to happen if you're at a small college, if you're in an organization, you're at a high school. You're going to have to find somebody that could do a little bit of everything. And if you could find that and hire them, I think that's key. They could do graphics for you. They can do photos for you. They can do video for you. And if they don't know how to do it, they're often kind of connected to other people that do it that they could probably send in your direction. So how do you justify these creative roles to administrators, boards, or whoever's in charge of doling out the cash, right? I think it's simple. How much is your brand worth? How much is this thing that you're overseeing worth to you? If it's worth the exposure, if it's worth growing, if it's worth the 10x that you can grow on social media, especially nowadays, right? Nowadays, the algorithm, you could have 100 followers and you could get a viral million view hit, right? My podcast, on my podcast IG, I had literally less than 10 followers, and like my fourth video got over 20,000 views on IG. And it was pretty crazy. I was like, whoa, how did this kind of blow up? Now the rest have not done as well, so I'm still trying to figure that out and what I did in that video that I'm not doing in the others. But that just goes to show you that like 20,000 people, or at least 20,000 impressions, people were able to see what I'm doing. And I give myself a chance to grow. And you could do that for your organization nowadays. You don't need to acquire the followers first and then hope at that point it's just going to be word of mouth. Now the algorithm, it's interest media. If you're interested in, let's say, high school football, and you start trying to find high school football accounts, and let's say I'm looking for a local team here and local team there. Well, the surrounding teams are also probably going to start popping up on your feed. Like I often try to find other creatives and see what they're doing and kind of vibing and supporting them. Well, I'm finding more creatives are starting to pop up in my Instagram reel or Instagram, boy, I am old. I cannot remember. Feed. Thank you. The Instagram feed. And yeah, it's going to continue to show what you want. If people complaining about what's on their feed, well, honestly, the algorithm is just seeing what you spend the most time on. So if you hate what you're seeing, stop spending time on the things that you're seeing. Easy enough. But yeah, that's why it's important that's how you can tell administrators, that's how you can tell board members, hiring managers that this is important. This is, if you want to grow nowadays, this is how you do it. It's free too. It is free in terms of social media. Obviously not the person you're hiring to do it, but you're not having to pay. It's not like newspaper ads or magazine ads or whatever else. This is free. And this is the way to reach thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people for free. So why not invest money into the person that is creating that content that can get your business, get your organization, get your team out there? So if you're an administrator, a coach, in charge of a youth organization, or whatever, I think it's good to know some things. Probably like the one piece of advice I would have for like a high school athletic director, somebody in charge of a team, a youth sports, board member that might be a bit hesitant investing in creative, is just reach out to someone. I know myself, if somebody's interested in my services, like I'm not asking you to pay before you just talk to me. I'm more than happy to sit down and talk to you about what I can do, how I can do that, what your kind of vision and stuff is, and seeing if we could vibe. And I think a lot of creatives are like that. You're willing to sit down and have that talk, have a discovery meeting is what we call it, right? And you could just talk, and it's not going to cost you anything, and you could see if that's going to be worth it to you. And, you could start talking about prices, and, that's a sensitive subject. And I know sometimes I struggle even talking about money, and sometimes I want to just please and whatever else. But as an administrator, I think you also have to understand that you will have to pay if you want something good. But if you could get somebody good consistently, I mean, I know myself, if I know a school is going to hire me, this is for my side business, if a school is willing to hire me for multiple events, I know my per game average will definitely, I'll work with them and go down a little bit. And if we could work out a season, yeah, that's where we could kind of talk about and figure out things and what we want to do. And I think go back, I think the biggest piece of advice is just reach out and talk to someone. Understand what they can do for you. And let's say you're working at a college, you're a college administrator, and you're just trying to figure out, even if you're just the creative there, and maybe you're not really into creative, and you're just kind of thinking how can you compete against bigger schools or organizations that have these huge budgets? And trust me, I am in that place right now. I am in it right now. My school is a Division II school. We're the only Division II school in the state, but we are also 30 minutes down the road from Oregon State, and we're like an hour and some change down from the University of Oregon. It's hard for us to get some shine. And I'll admit, these last few years for ourselves, I've been trying to be Oregon, not literally, but, I've been trying to get us up to this D1 level and what D1 schools do and doing these highlight packages and, the graphics and everything else. And I've kind of realized sitting back this summer and thinking about this upcoming year that that's a losing strategy. I think going and trying to compare myself or do things that these schools that have, dozens of people possibly doing all this stuff, and it's just me and some students, or right now, honestly, it's just me and me hiring out a photographer, that I'm not going to be able to compete no matter how good I am or what I could do. I just can't, the sheer volume and the sheer time that I could take on a video, I can't do that. So how do you stand out? It's something I've had to think about, but I think those of us at smaller schools, smaller budgets, you got to be able to take some risks. And I think that's what we're going to do this year. Winning helps, so you could talk that shit. But yeah, I want us to have our own identity, our own vibe. And I think you have to kind of look at your school or whoever you're working for and seeing what their identity is and really embrace it. And, this term is becoming very, I don't want to say cliche, but it's a very popular term now in the branding, social media world. But authenticity, and, just being your true self, figuring out what your program's about, what your department's about, and if you're running a team account, what your team's about, and have your content connect with that and expose that. Because I'm not going to be, for myself, I'm not going to be able to put out super, high polished videos that has 4 different camera angles because there's 4 students shooting at different spots and connecting to me all at once, and I'm able to grab it real quick and splice it all together and have the assets to be able to do that in a very timely manner, because I'm also worrying about 5 other things. And I know a lot of you that are working in small departments are doing the same. So we got to, I think it's raw. I think it's, quote, I hate saying this, but authentic. Just because it feels buzzwordy now, but it's true. You have to be, have a realness to your social media nowadays. And I think that's what's going to translate to people, and people are going to take pride in, the alumni, and you got to figure out ways to stand out. And I know myself, we're going to be taking risks. We're going to be getting close to that line. We're hopefully not going to cross it. Hopefully I can have my job by the end of the year, but, yeah, we're going to get close to that line. And, I think that's the way we're going to have to be able to shine and really, grow as a fan base and have people interested in sports and interested in your department. You're just going to have to take those risks. So I think one step, just, if there's one thing that I could tell any program, whether you're a small college, a high school, youth, whatever, I think it would be take a real look at your social media and decide what you need to get better at. Look at those who are doing better, whether competitors or whatever else, and see what you need to get better at. And if it's just one thing that you can go towards that one thing. If it's just photography, find a photographer. If it's just videography, find a videographer. If it's graphic design and you want cooler posts, find a graphic designer that'll help you out. Just do one thing to take your social media to one step higher. You're not going to fix it all at once or, improve it all at once. Find that one step. And then once you feel comfortable with that step or find someone that step, then do the next one. So as we wrap this up, I think the big takeaway is you have to invest in creative or you're going to die. Your organization's going to die. It might not be right away, but your brand is slowly going to die. And if you don't have people talented to tell your story, to improve your brand, to be spokespeople or help be spokespeople for you, you're going to fail. You're going to die. You're going to close. And not investing in the thing that is going to make the biggest impact in marketing your brand is a woefully short-sighted thing to do. As we continue to grow, and I didn't really even talk about this aspect, but AI is going to make things a lot easier. And I think in a future episode, I will talk more about AI, and maybe I should have talked about more AI in this episode because it is going to make things easier for the common person. That sounds terrible. Not the common, but the non-sports creative or non-creative person to be able to create content, to be able to be quote unquote savvy enough to do it, right? Those of us that have done all this time working on Photoshop and learned how to make a great graphic or something like that. Now someone's just going to be able to spit it in Chat GPT and boom, it's out. That's just life. We could sit here and bitch and moan about it, but that's the way it's going to be. But now it's going to be about having taste and being able to identify what looks good, what's going to hit, what you can ask, what you need to ask AI to get the proper marketing materials and social media materials you need to grow. Plus, if you're just doing a bunch of AI, like I can't, if I see anything, and I'm embracing AI. I use it in this podcast just to set up frameworks for my podcast. And I ask it, actually learned this from Pat Flynn, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a podcast on this, and I want you to have questions for each section that I could read off as I'm kind of going through my outline that I answer, instead of being able to just read word for word, because early on I was just literally almost scripting my whole podcast. But now, boom, I could do that, and I could be more spontaneous, and you get more ums and whatever else. But I am more, oh gosh, I'm going to use that word. But it's true. I am more me now, instead of trying to just write all my points out and then try to make it sound like I'm not reading them. And that fucking sucked. It was so hard for me to edit even the first couple episodes, but it's just the way it is. It's still hard to edit. I'm still doing things, and I'm rambling off my main point here. But going back to how I kind of see like this evolving over the next 5 years for youth programs, high schools, and particularly non-Division I schools, I think there's eventually going to be a change in that. I hope administrators, and maybe this is me being super wishful thinking, but I think there will be kind of a turn that people will realize the importance of creative and the sports media landscape in terms of driving your brand. And if you're not driving your brand and getting, especially like with student athletes jumping from school to school, finding that next opportunity, I think somewhere I read, and this might be a terrible number, but I guess it's a pretty accurate number, that close to 85% of student athletes admit that like social media does have a medium to significant impact on what school they choose, because let's be honest, they want to shine, or they want to be able to have stuff to share that looks fucking cool. And honestly, that's what I'm trying to do at my school. I want to give our student athletes, like, man, we have some cool shit coming out on our social media. And I want our coaches to be able to go into living rooms, or they probably don't do that anymore. I show my age again, but on their calls, or, at these camps, and be able to, hey, check out our social media, or hey, they shoot them a DM with whatever, right? To be able to show that, man, if you come here and you ball out, you're going to get seen. You're going to get freaking, exposed. And that's either going to help you shine at this level, or it could give you an opportunity at the Division I level. So I think as we grow in the next 5 years, and hopefully administrators more and more start to understand the impact that this has on their coaches, on their sponsors. Like, we haven't even talked about sponsors, where we could start, selling that space in terms of maybe game days or post games, and having it branded and whatever else. This is a way to make some content, some money for ourselves. And so I'm hoping over the next 5 years that they're going to really embrace this, because if not, we're already seeing it in many colleges are struggling with budgets, and cutting is the easy answer, but sometimes it's investing in your brand what's going to take you out of that hole. Again, thank you for joining me for this episode of Sports Creatives Anonymous. You can shoot me an email at sportscreativesanonymous@gmail.com, or you could find me on social media at Sports Creatives Anonymous or at Clayton and Focus. shoot me a DM, follow me, whatever. I'm trying to grow this thing. Tell a friend, tell a creative, tell whoever you can, I guess. And I appreciate you joining me for this. If you have any comments about where you're kind of seeing the importance of content creatives going, and maybe even some of your own stories about, people cutting the positions or adding the positions and what the benefits have been. I'd love to hear them. I'd love to share them on future episodes. So, I guess just kind of a last thing to talk about this, just today's game visibility is just as important as winning the games, and investing in creative staff or structured content roles is how programs of all levels are going to win both.